Hi, I am Tiffany Hoja, Director of Alumni Relations at the University of Mount Union, and I am so pleased to welcome Dr. Steve Kramer with me today to talk a little bit about the Social Responsibility course, which this year was in its 23rd trip and had the opportunity to have the first alumni trip. So welcome, Dr. Kramer.
Thank you. It's good to be here.
And so where was the trip this year that you took with the alumni?
We went back to El Salvador to work with an organization called SAPRSAR. It's a rural health organization that we've gone to many times. We had to stop going there. I think we've made 13 trips there over the years. We had to stop after 2012 because the State Department issued a travel warning, and the school doesn't want students go to any country that has a travel warning.
Absolutely.
But having talked with them, I knew it was safe, and I knew I could take a group of alums there. And so I sent out a note last fall to all the alums from the past alumni trips, or from the past social responsibility trips, to say that we were planning one for this summer and who might be interested. And I got about 40 responses of people indicating they wanted to do it, and then gradually narrowed that down to 12 students, or former students, who were going to go on this one. And then Mike Patterson and I were going to accompany them. So we had planned on having, I guess, 13 students, because we were going to have 15 total. And so we had 15, and then gradually through the year, a few had to drop out because of job changes and other constraints on their lives. And so we eventually went with 12 people.
And what is the cost of a trip like this?
$1,500 per participant. So,
Okay.
whereas the trip itself during the spring semester only cost them $400, that was because we did some fundraisers and other ways of making up the difference. But here in the summer, we didn't have the opportunity to do that. So if you were going to go in the summer, you had to pay the full amount, which was around $1,500. So all of the participants paid that.
And is that just for their transportation and meals while they're there?
That's for room and board there, and that's for paying for the project that we were engaged in. Yeah. This year we were working on what they call wood-saving stoves, building wood-saving stoves that cost $175 a piece. And so we paid $4,000, which enabled us to build 23 stoves. And
that's wonderful.
These went to 23 different families there who, their stoves in the past, and for most people there, are in their house, and so they have real problems with the smoke coming from the house, staying within the house, and you have a lot of health problems that result from that, because the stoves are not vented to the outside. But they also have a problem with wood, and so the deforestation is a major problem there. And so the stoves that are being built for them were designed by some people from MIT that enabled them both to vent it to the outside and to use about 50% less wood than would normally be used. So this was a win-win situation for them. And the only thing that prevents more of them from doing it is the cost. So our group was able to pay for these, and I would say help with the construction. They did most of the work. We helped in mixing some of the concrete and applying some of it, but they did most of the work, and we were there kind of to help out and to interact with the families and kind of get to know them and see what their lives were like, and share with them our concern for them. So it was a very touching experience for everybody, I think, who participated.
Can you describe a little bit about the region that this community is in?
Yes, it's in a very remote area of the western part of El Salvador, very near the Guatemala border. We would ride, we stayed in Santa Ana, which is where SAPRSAR is located, and then we would drive out every day in the back of a pickup. We had 2 trucks, and so half the group would go in the back of one and half in the other, and we'd drive out. And the beginning of the ride was pretty smooth on a regular highway, but then you get into a dirt road and then into a very rough dirt road, very rocky, a lot of ruts. You can travel probably 3 to 5 miles an hour maximum on these roads, and they're very hilly, and it's a very bumpy ride.
Probably something we're not accustomed to having around in this area.
But I think everyone enjoyed it. Everyone enjoyed that ride. It was like kind of like riding a horse, you know, up and down, and having a pretty sore butt by the end of the day. But it made for an interesting trip back and forth each day. Mm-hmm. But so you go into a very remote area, places that really have very little. I mean, you see a few houses here and there, no towns or villages really to speak of, and people live a very simple life.
Wow. So what type of reaction did the community have to your visit?
They've always enjoyed having us come out. I think they don't see many Americans. They don't see many Westerners. And I think having a group come out and interact with them, even though our Spanish is fairly limited, they just speak Spanish, of course, and we had 4 people on the trip who could speak Spanish fairly well, and then a few others who could speak some, and some who couldn't speak any. But we split up into groups so that some groups there would be at least a Spanish speaker in each group, and that enabled us to interact effectively with all the families.
It sounds like it was such an amazing trip for those that were involved, the alumni as well as the community that you assisted. So who were the alumni that went on the trip with you?
Well, there were, as I said, 10 students, and they came. There were there were several who came who had been with one other student on the trip in the past. So there were 2 from 2012. Those would have been the youngest, Mitza Bolta and Cassie Dirtle. And then a friend of theirs, actually, Kristen Walker, who had never been on a trip before, was added near the end when we were looking for more people. Then we had somebody from 2009, I think, Kelly Chandler, Ryan Canati, and Jenna Patterson. I think they were from 2009, and Kelly was from 2008. And then Carla Conant from 2004, and Andrew LaTanner, and Katie Krisman, and then Claire Seriak from 1997. So it spanned from 1997 up to 2012. So about 15 years from the trips that they had gone on. Most of them had worked with the SAPRSAR in the past, but 4 of them had not. Claire had worked in Guatemala, Carla had worked in Honduras, and Katie had worked in Mexico. And of course, Kristen hadn't worked any place.
Well, we are so appreciative of all your years of taking this trip, and now as a retired faculty member, continuing to take students on this trip. What a wonderful opportunity, as I mentioned before. And then to have this opportunity to have alumni travel with you as well. So thank you so very much for everything that you have done, and we look forward to potentially more trips in the future. So stay tuned.
Okay.